We're going to be settling a battle that has been waging here in the United States for the past 50 years. We're going to be looking Mustang versus Camaro.
The Mustang uses a 4.6-liter V8 made to a 5-speed manual transmission. Camaro, on the other hand, features a 5.7-liter V8 with 310 horsepower and 340 mated to a 6-speed manual transmission. We're going to be taking a deeper look at the driving dynamics of the cars as we take them through a little bit more of a twisty road instead of just dead straight road.
Alright, so now we're on our favorite twisty road. We're going to talk a little more about how these cars feel. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the actual driving dynamics and character feelings of the car while we're up here. So, Jerry, character, driving dynamics, Mustang, go.
Let's see, so far not too bad. Like I was saying, the power is good, although when you hit bumps or something, the car does hop a little, which can be a little disconcerting on a road like this. In the corners, not too bad. It's a little more stable than I expected, given what I've heard about this car.
Yeah, personally, I kind of like that this car is a little scary and a little hard to handle through the corners because it keeps you on your toes and sort of makes you work to drive the car. But I get what you mean. Like, it is a little disconcerting when you start to feel it give in the middle of the corner.
Yeah.
What else do you feel about are you, like, feeling from just driving it up here and,
Yeah, overall, it's definitely fun. It's not one of those cars where you immediately feel comfortable with it, but I think, like you were saying, that's probably part of what makes these cars exciting, is that there's that little bit of fear factor in it.
Well, one thing I noticed when I first bought this car, and actually the first time I drove it before I actually even knew I was going to buy it from Adria, the car, it's one of those cars that I think anybody can really get in and drift this car. Like, it is not hard at all to get the back, like I was saying earlier, the back end just steps out so easily. But I don't feel like it's a car that you need a lot of experience to handle. Like, certainly through the twisties, it's hard. It's not an easy car to drive. But, like, when you actually just want to flick it around and have some fun with it, it actually is, I think, behaves rather nicely. Alright, so now we're going to head back down to the bottom. We're going to swap cars, and we're going to see what we think of the Camaro coming up that road. Alright, so the first thing that we both really agree on when it comes to the Camaro on these roads, the Camaro feels a lot more planted. Like, the Mustang, like we were saying, it'll chatter around, it gets you nervous. This car, you just go through it. You don't, like, when I'm driving the Mustang on a twisty road, like, I always have to be sure that I'm watching my tack so I'm not getting too much torque to the rear wheels at high RPM, because if I touch the throttle in the middle of the corner at high RPM, the back end is going to come out. It just is. That's just a fact. But the Camaro coming through these corners, I can be going any RPM, any speed, and I don't have to worry about the back end stepping out. I mean, I have to worry about understeer or any of those other things that you're going to have to worry about, but you really don't get that feeling that this car is going to lash out and try and bite you in the ass.
Right.
It's a lot smoother and a lot more planted, I think, is like the big takeaway.
Yeah.
In terms of driving dynamics.
Definitely the controls seem a lot more smoother, which when you're going quick in a car, you don't want to have to think about whether or not you're going to be able to make a gear. So
yeah, I've had that a couple of times in the Mustang where third sometimes is a pain in the ass to catch. And I've had that happen where I'm trying to keep up with someone in a canyon and I dropped it in a second to go around a corner and I go to grab third and I'm just like, where the hell is it? But yeah, in this car, you really don't get that feeling that you're searching for a gear ever. Like, you can just get it in and go. But again, like we were talking about, I don't like the clutch in this car. Like, I had this car this car was in my family a lot longer than the Mustang has been. But the problem is, this hydraulic clutch, I just don't feel anything anymore. Like when I started driving it, it was great because I could get used to driving a manual. But now that I've been driving a lot more with a heavy clutch, it's just hydraulic clutch is just really annoying me because I don't get as much mechanical feedback. And that for me is like one of the big things that irks me with cars, when I don't get enough mechanical feedback. Like the GT3 we both drove back in that special.
Right.
Part of the reason I did not like that GT3 is that I just didn't get feedback from the electronic power steering. I didn't feel like I was in control of it. And it's the same thing with this clutch. I don't feel like I'm really working in unison with the car when I have that much help. So yeah, that's really my only niggle with the clutch and the driving dynamics of this car. Like, so really what it comes down to, I think, is the fair thing to say in terms of all the numbers and all the specs and everything. The Mustang is a lot harder to handle. It's more of a muscle car, a proper muscle car, where the Camaro is really trying to keep up with the Corvette and be a proper sports car.
I agree.
All right, so we're going to jump out and give you the final verdict. All right, so now it's time to deliver the verdict. We've been driving these cars around all afternoon. We've been in traffic, we've been without traffic, we've been on normal sort of boring roads, we've been on some fun twisty roads. And, you know, it's kind of funny. Every time you show up on camera, I'm flying the flag of one of the cars we're testing, and I always end up sticking with it. And unfortunately, this time is no different. I am actually sticking with the Mustang on this one on the basis.
Things never change.
Yeah, some things never change. But for me, the reasoning behind that is the car is essentially half the price of the Camaro. You're looking, like this one here, I got with under 80,000 miles a couple months ago. Wow, almost a year ago now. Under 80,000 miles, 15 years old. It was like $3,700. And for a daily car, that's not bad, especially if you're just going to be using it like I do to, go to school or work or whatever, short commutes, and driving it through the canyons. And for me, that is probably about as much car as you could possibly ask for, and even more than you could ever get for like $4,000. But when you look at the Camaro, you're looking at $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 for a Z28 like the one we were looking at. And yes, you get more power, but you don't get as much fun from that power. Like, even when I was doing the burnout, that was the first time, like I said, I'm the king of burnouts, and I've had that car in my family for 4 years. That is the first time I've ever done a burnout in that car. Like, it just doesn't have that fear factor. It doesn't have that fun factor that this car has. And with all those things combined, yeah, this isn't as good a daily car as the Camaro is. It's not as comfortable. But because it's got such a better fun factor to it, and it's half the price, and let's be honest, when you're looking at $9,000 for a Camaro, why wouldn't you just save another $2,000, wait a little longer, and just get a Corvette? Because let's be honest, if you're at a point where you're actually looking, and you're about our age, when you'd actually be looking at this era of car for a fun daily car, let's be honest, the insurance isn't going to help you, and that's the only real reason they put a back seat in this, and that's the only advantage this has over a Corvette, is that token back seat. So at the end of the day, like, if you buy one of these, it's more because you can't actually afford the Corvette than you prefer it to the Corvette. So let's be brutally honest here.
It's one of those things.
Yeah, like you can't actually, so that's why my money is still with the Mustang, half the price. You can do so much extra with that money to make this car better, or even, take your girlfriend on a really nice vacation. So, I get the feeling you don't agree with me again.
Well, let's see. So, like you were saying, the Mustang, it's a lot of fun. The axle hop through some of the bumpy turns, and then the power of the car is really intoxicating. And like you were saying, there's that fear factor with it that makes it a little more exciting than the Camaro. And also the value if you can get one at half the price on the used car market. But the way I think of it is that I'm sure we mentioned this, but the Mustang, it feels more like the pony car.
Yeah, it's literally the pony car.
Whereas this Camaro, it feels a little more of a hybrid between a pony car, but also like a sporty car as well.
I'd venture to say the Camaro, at least in this generation, is actually a sports car. I wouldn't really call that a pony or a muscle car at that point because it's just too planted. And not that that's ever a bad thing, but like it sort of changes the dynamic between the two cars because, originally, Camaro was GM playing catch up with the Mustang in the 60s, and then, they sort of eventually broke off and sort of went into different directions. And at this point and in this era, they're just so drastically different. And that's not something you realize because, you always hear guys duking it out, Camaro, Mustang, just like constantly. If you're on the internet or at a car show, guys are always duking out the Camaro Mustang. And honestly, I think at this point, it's almost apples and oranges. And personally, I prefer apples in this case. But it sounds like you're going to say that you prefer oranges.
Well, I still need a little more experience getting used to manual, so this, as I was saying, the shifter in this car is super notchy, so I was having some trouble finding some of the gears. So given more time, I think I would warm up more to the Mustang, but the way I can summarize it is that the Mustang, it's a car that kind of challenges you, whereas the Camaro, it encourages you.
I actually like that. That is probably one of the best, like, in all the takes we've been doing here, I think that's actually the best thing that really summarizes the cars. Like, yeah, the Camaro is going to be more expensive. It's going to be a better daily car for that money. But yeah, the Camaro sort of encourages you to go quickly. The Mustang says, come on, buddy, let's see what you got.
So when it comes to spirited or high performance driving, for me, the most important thing is feeling like you have control of the car at all times. And having confidence. Doesn't matter if you're taking a corner fast, doing a burnout, drifting, whatever, but you want to feel like you have.
Not that we ever encourage doing those things, just say that we don't encourage doing those things, but should you feel so compelled to do them of your own accord,
use a closed course.
Yeah, of course, use a closed course. You should never do that on the road. We've never done that on the open road, have we? No, never.
But in the end, I prefer cars that make me feel confident and encourage me, so I've liked Mustangs more than Camaros for the longest time, but today, I'd have the Camaro.
All right, so that is that. So I want to hear from you guys. You tell us, which car would you choose and why? So let's talk also sort of, if you would mind, oh, hello. Sorry, the new Shelby just went by. I'm going to take that as a sign that I'm right here.
You guys hear that?
I don't know if it came up on our mics, but yeah, that was gorgeous red new 350 Shelby, and I'm going to take that as a sign that I am right.
Oh man, I would take that over a Z28.
Yep, fair enough, but hopefully we're going to be trying in the next couple of weeks to get the 16 GT Mustang and the 16, what is it now? I think it's the 1SS is I think it's the 1SS V8. We're going to hopefully get both of those and the newer cars against each other and see if we still agree with this verdict in the newer models. But for now...
And it also provides an opportunity just to see how much the cars have evolved in over 10 years. In this case, since they're both 2001s.
Yeah, exactly.
15 years.
Yeah, so it'll be really interesting to see if we can get those cars and see if our verdict changes in those differences. Because I've actually driven the new Mustang a couple of times, and I have to say, it actually has gone more to the sports car side. Like, I feel really planted when I drive the new GT. And for me, that almost made it feel a little bit spoiled, because I do like that beastly feel that you got in the 13s and the 14s. So I think this will be really interesting to try the new gens, put the new gens against each other if we can manage to pull that off. But anyway, like we were saying, we've been droning on way too long out here. You're probably really sick of hearing my voice. So, if you enjoyed the video, let us know. So also below, tell us, which car would you choose and why? And also, just for good measure, tell us how long your commute is, because that actually, I think, plays a really big factor. Like, yeah, my commute to school is 40 miles, but I only do it one way a week. Like, I live down in Irvine when I'm at school, so I drive this car like 80 miles a week and then maybe 10 miles otherwise.
Here and there.
Yeah, here and there. So,
Whereas I drive to and from school every day, and it's a round trip about 32, 34 miles. So.
Yeah, so it's a big difference. So please do tell us below which car you choose, why you would choose it, and would you be using it more for fun or for commuting. With that, I'm going to thank you and say we'll see you next week.